Hey guys, hope you had a fabulous weekend. I am back today because Mondays are my day off. So if you're here today, let's talk about something I know you'll be wondering about if you are a pre-dental student. How much realistically are you going to be making? But before we even get into that, let's talk about how much money you're gonna owe. My piece of advice for you, go to the cheapest school because nobody ever asks me what school I went to unless it's, another dentist or another dental student. The point is, your education, your degree is going to be the same, more or less. You want to try and live your post-grad life as stressless as possible. I mean, if that's even a thing. Try to minimize your debt. Now, I'm a Canadian or international student going to school in America. So for me and my classmates, everyone paid the same tuition, which was private school tuition. And that ended up being around $78,000 per year times 4 years at that time. I graduated in 2016 and I know they're hiking up that price every year. And that's not even the most expensive school I interviewed at. I couldn't afford to go to USC, even though it was in lovely sunny California, because their tuition was well over $100,000, and including the cost of living, that was more debt than I was willing to take on. When I lived in Detroit and in Windsor for the first year, I lived with a roommate the first year, so I paid about $350 in rent. And on the Detroit side, even living alone, I paid no more than $450 per month in rent. So I kept the other costs as low as possible. And now that I'm graduated, I'm not living the same. I'm trying to maybe live less frugally, but still trying to be conscious and smart about my money. So let's talk about the two states that I have the most experience in regards to how much you're going to make. Of course, it is different country to country and state by state. But the first job I had out of dental school was in Wisconsin, and I currently live and have worked in Denver, Colorado for the last few months. Now, as a fourth year senior in dental school, do not worry about finding a job because there are so many hungry DSO or dental corporations just waiting to get their greedy hands on you. Like, do not worry about finding a job. There's plenty of jobs. I know a lot of students worked with their fathers or uncles or other family members that already had successful practices, but me and a lot of my friends weren't in a background of medical or dental business, so we kind of had to rely on our own resources to get a job. From my experience, and correct me if I'm wrong, I am going to have to agree that Wisconsin is probably one of the best, if not one of the best, states to practice in. When I started back in 2016, there were plenty of jobs to go around throughout the state, but if you wanted to work in the city of Milwaukee, which I did, the starting salary for me was $140,000, and that was your guaranteed first year base pay. Now, I know a lot of other classmates or other people that I've talked to have worked in less desirable areas outside the city, such as Green Bay or anywhere else more rural, and I know that first year income was a range from $160,000 up to $180,000 per year guaranteed base pay salary. Of course, it's going to be different depending on your schedule, depending on your skill set, how much work you're willing to put in, and what you're producing while you're working at that clinic. But when you're just starting out and you're slow and you have like a one column patient base, that high guaranteed base pay is going to be a really great cushion for you. And 180 is probably one of the highest that I've ever seen for a starting new grad salary, especially if you have no other connection and you're just starting from scratch. It is a little bit different here in Colorado. I do admit I'm working a little bit less, so less hours per week, but I'm also making a lot less as well. It's very different state by state as well with how much dentistry costs. So in Colorado, I have noticed I make less not only because I work less hours and the pay is less, but also because dentistry costs less to the patient. So for example, if you are delivering a crown, you're making less collection on that crown than you were in another state. So for instance, I would make like $1,600, or that's how much it cost to the patient to have that crown delivered in Wisconsin. But here it's more like $800 to $1,000 in cost to the patient. Now here it also there's less coverage from the insurance. So the insurance will only pay up to 50% for that crown, and the patient is less likely going to want to do that crown as a result. Whereas in Wisconsin, the insurance was paying, 80 to 100% unlimited amount of insurance. So it was a much easier sell to do a crown because it was basically free for the patient, and if they needed it, like, why wouldn't they? So for sure, consider where you want to practice and keep your idealizations to a reality, because if you're not working for a family member and you're working for a DSO in a large city where, a lot of millennials want to live, you're not going to be making that much money. And I want to say that most of us are hardworking and are willing to put in the effort, but a lot of people are just as fine cruising by on, the minimum base salary too. So depending on your work ethic, it's going to be up to you sometimes to recruit patients and fill your schedule as well. And it's not that easy when you're in a brand new town, you don't really know anybody, you don't have connections, family members. Your referral is just based on your demeanor, bedside manner, and how much you're able to get a patient base started. Now, am I considering buying a practice? At this stage in my life, no, because one, it's a lot of additional loan to take on, especially if you're starting from scratch. Two, I can't have the commitment right now to decide where I want to live. I've lived in a lot of places over the last several years, but right now I'm just on, a contract because I'm not positive if I'm going to stay in Denver, especially if the saturation is definitely an issue. I might go back to Wisconsin, I might go back to my home country in Canada. It's still up in the air. I don't really have a plan. Right now I'm just doing the best that I can right now. Later on in another video, I might be able to talk about how I'm managing my loans, how much I'm paying for my loans, how much I pay in bills, what car do I drive, what am I paying in rent, because let's be honest, it's crazy in Denver, especially because I live downtown Denver. If you're looking to spend money wisely, I'm maybe not going to be the best person to ask, but I at least can give you some insight into how much things cost if you move to a city, and how much you should be paying to your loans and how long it might take to pay off your loans. I am in a bit of a more fortunate situation because I don't have any federal loans. My loans are all in Canadian dollars from a private bank that allowed a very low interest rate, 3%, which was prime. I know my parents did help me out. My parents are not wealthy. Most of my friends, my boyfriend's family, isn't one that came from money. A lot of immigrant families, they work really hard and they push their kids to be successful, and that was the goal. So I don't rely on my parents. They did help me out for sure in undergrad, so I had no loans going into dental school. But still having that, $400,000 loan in your mind day to day, it's difficult to make judgment calls, especially on the type of car you can drive or afford, how you live your life, things that you should or shouldn't buy. Maybe in another upcoming video we can discuss other ways that loans could influence your day-to-day. Otherwise, thanks guys for coming back. I really enjoyed talking to you again, and I hope to see you soon.